All right, so let's now begin with our interview. So we sent the questions beforehand. Let's begin with familiarity with AI applications in clinical settings. So for you, how would you define AI? What comes to your mind when you think about AI in occupational therapy?
Mm, okay, so the first thing that comes to mind when I think about AI or artificial intelligence is mostly associated with automation. So, um, it's about the servers gathering data, being able to collate all those data, and whenever you try to um, use it in a way that, and for whatever purpose it may be, then it's going then the server is gonna be giving out the um, data. Yeah, so it kind of automates a lot of systems. So that's the idea that I have, or at least that's the first thing that comes to mind. And in terms of AI in OT, um, it's fairly new, if I must say. um, I haven't been able to explore, if I'm being honest, in terms of the research, the study journals, in terms of use of it in intervention or evaluation. Um, but from based on my own experience of using it, it's mostly to help out, improve more on, yeah, using the tool as a way to improve or to help, to ano ba, help me gather a bit more ideas or help me plan a bit more efficiently during sessions to help me out with administrative tasks, etc. So it's mostly on that. Um, but in terms of research or studies, um, or more on the evidence-based aspect of it, I have yet to read more on it. Yeah, kasi hindi pa siya gano'n. It's a new idea. It's fairly novel. Um, it's a new thing that I'm not sure if we're quite ready for it yet. But it's good to have this kind of studies for innovation or innovating the practice.
All right, so you mentioned how it is new, but it's an emerging technology. And so, can you share on if you use generative AI applications in your practice, since you said that you haven't really explored it? So, if you have used it a little, can you share what your experience has been like? And if not, could you share, I guess, your reasons and experiences behind not using it?
Okay. So I mostly use AI um and more to supplement my management. So it's mostly on that so far. Um I try to use it minimally only when I see the benefits of using it. So most of the time it's to help me design activities to target certain goals or skills. So it's mostly on that to help me plan out activities. Other instances when I use Gen AI is mostly administrative things like writing letters, um, emailing, mostly on that just to get it out of my list. But in terms of the practice itself, it's mostly on the management side. I have yet to use it in a evaluative during the evaluation process in the OT, because I'm not too confident, or I haven't read about AI tools that will ensure data privacy. So in terms of, like, for example, analyzing test results or scores, I mostly use still my clinical reasoning. I still I still read the manual, how to interpret it, etc. But um yeah, I don't use AI pa in the evaluation process. More on the planning aspect lang. Yeah, more on that.
Um, all right. So can you share or like expound on that? So which of the generative AI based technologies do you use, and can you um explain on how you mentioned that you use it as a support tool to design activities? So can you expound more on that?
Well, yung Gen AI that I use is mostly the open source ones. So ChatGPT, Gemini, mostly on that. Tsaka with Google kasi medyo integrated na naka-integrate na yung AI in their um softwares or like their tools. So yun, usually there. In terms of sa planning or designing activities, so I've recently used Gen AI to like make social stories for me. So it helps me try to parang it gives me like a picture already. And I was able to target specific skills for social skills training with one of my clients. Another thing is to give me a bit more information on other activities that I can use or do with targeting uh, executive function skills. So mostly on that. But in terms of designing activities or yung plan mismo, treatment plans, I still set the goals. I still set the specific skills that I want to target in a session. I use the Gen AI to help me design those activities. Yeah. So mostly on that. So for example, meron akong idea on an activity and I need some like multiple rounds or multiple examples of it. So I would use Gen AI to help me generate examples of it. So mostly on that lang. So most parang the thinking is still on me. the the planning aspect is still on me, but I use the Gen AI to like help me out in in creating more of the ideas that I have. Parang gano'n. Sa supplement, parang ganyan.
How about with the administrative side? But how can you explain on how you use it po on that side?
It's to be honest, it's mostly to like grammar check. If I can make it a bit more formal, depending on the tone or the um, depending on the tone or the recipient, mostly on that. Um, I have I don't I haven't really used it to analyze administrative data yet. Like for example, like referrals, attendance sheets, because there's really not much, like we don't necessarily have to do that in the administrative side. So it's just mostly emails and grammar checks and helping me like phrase my thoughts a bit better when it comes to those administrative tasks. So yeah, it helps out with just clearing things or checking things off my list because those are the things that I don't like with administrative work.
All right. So with you using generative AI as more of a support tool, how do you think has generative AI impacted your role and I guess clinical practice as an OT, or in what ways has it not as well?
Mm, well, since I haven't integrated the use of AI fully in my practice. So, well, I haven't seen any kind of significant change um in terms of like how I do my practice in general. But one of the things that I've noticed lang is it helps things more efficient for me. So, if there are like small tasks that I have to do and like as I said, just to get it out of my checklist, then must to call that uh it helps me do those things quicker. And I don't like doing those things. So that's why I use AI for that. So for example, creating forms for like on the administrative side, I don't like doing that because I have to like check all the measures, what information I need, etc. So I use Gen AI to help me out um to help me finish those or create those forms quicker. Yeah, but in terms of my own like clinical practice, clinical skills, how I do my sessions, management, um, it's mostly help yun nga more on the design. It's mostly the supplement side of it. I haven't really noticed any significant effect or impact in terms of using AI tools in the practice. Mm, yeah, because even when I look up journals, I still go through like the old way of like looking journals. So I go to a site and then look up journals for when I need to look up some EBPs for my practice. So yeah.
So with that, you said that it helps with efficiency. Let's move on to perceived benefits of AI use in the clinical practice. So aside from your practice specifically, in a general aspect, what do you think are the potential benefits of generative AI in the OT practice, if any?
Um it's a really good way to um because there are a lot of um work that an OT does na outside of the clinics. So AI is going to be really helpful, or at least it's helpful if we find a way to like um integrate it in the practice in a way that is um what do you call that? It's still like, it still respects data privacy. It's still more client centered and all those like factors. Um, it's gonna help out like lessen those workload outside of the clinic. Kasi yun nga, like as a occupational therapist, sa when you're in the clinic, you just do clinic work. But there's a lot of work after that. And those are hours that, quite frankly, you're not paid for those hours. So, and it's still work. So, like I feel like Gen AI will help with that. So that's just one aspect of it. Um, I know that AI has been used in tech lately, and I feel like there's a potential with using AI for the tech side ng OT. Like in terms of like the um like similar with how they use mga virtual reality tech, something like that. I feel like there's a potential there. As I said, I haven't read about it, but AI has been really been um booming in the tech side. So I feel like there's potential there also in terms of innovating the OT practice and the use of technology sa practice. So yeah, I think those are the um things that I can think about like on the top of my head.
So based on your answers, do you think that AI could affect patient outcomes?
Mm, it's so hard to tell right now because it hasn't, parang there's not enough data for it. Especially with like for example, just with the local context, I'm not sure if it's I can say that it can affect patient outcomes. Kasi yun nga, like not a lot of OTs have been sabihin natin open to like using it. Like a lot of therapists still, especially like um the therapist that I've worked with still has reservations with using AI in their practice. So it's like a conversation that comes up like during lunch breaks in the clinics, and yun nga parang as I said, it's a new tech. It's fairly new, it's novel for a lot of therapists. So it's really hard to tell and to really explore yung use of it in and integrating AI in the practice. Yun nga, kasi nga, parang so much reservations pa with using it in practice, especially when it comes to management. Ah.
So would you say with your colleagues now,
Mm-mm.
only a few just use AI or none at
Mm,
all?
baka nga hindi wala na not at all eh. Apart from, siguro at most, like, they using it as like a search engine. But even if that's not even like the recommended use for it, like to use it like a search engine. But yeah, those are parang the things that I notice or the things that I observe so far. I'm not sure if it comes with the experience. Like for example, the people that I've worked with, they tend to be like later in the practice na. So they have, I wouldn't say resistance, pero they have reservations, yeah, to these new innovations. Since ako naman as a clinical supervisor, I work with interns, and since younger sila and they grow up with technology and with a lot of innovation, so they tend to be more open with using it. Ang nagiging problem ko lang, or at least na papansin ko sa kanila, is they rely on it too much, na hindi na sila nade-develop yung reasoning nila for using it. So, nagiging substitute yung AI naman for clinical skills. That's why may reservations naman ako with them using it. Kasi they're still in the process of learning and developing their practice or their clinical skills. And I'm not sure if using AI is going to be helpful with that. Yeah.
So can you share more about that on what you think are the risks and challenges with the adoption of generative AI in the OT practice?
Risk and challenges. Siguro we can start with the with the challenges first. So since it's fairly new, um, and I don't know, medyo ano naman eh, hindi naman ganun ka-innovative yung mga practice here in the Philippines. So I guess that's one challenge. Mahirap siyang i-integrate. Tsaka mahirap magkaroon ng buy-in. Like for example, like you create a program, like okay, we can use these kinds of things for these, and then these are the benefits. But um, yeah, hindi ganun ka-open pa yung karamihan ng OTs when it comes to innovation. Not unless it's like super, like there's a really good study that it's gonna be helpful, it's beneficial, it's gonna move the practice forward. And then may benefits nga with when it comes to client care, their and their also clinical practice. So that's one challenge. Pangalawa is yung with the tech sa Philippines, it's just not that great. Although, you know, in terms of tech, most naman will have access to these tools. But yun nga, parang the challenge there is how will the therapist be able to use these tools in a way that will benefit the clients and reduce risk, or kung meron man, kung may risk man or not. Ganun. And then, so that's another challenge. And then, ano pa ba? I think, yun lang naman mostly. Kasi yun lang naman yung mga reservations nila. Parang, it's nagiging substitute to AI for clinical reasoning when in fact, it shouldn't be that way. Parang ganon. So, yeah. Yun yung mga usual, yun yung usual um, conversations namin about AI. What's the other one? The risk
Yeah,
and
risks.
challenge. In terms of risk, it's hard to say. I think apart from like the data, like how data is being handled by I think yun lang naman yung nag-isip kong risk. That's why um I haven't fully integrated the use of AI in my practice. So any kind of um so when I use AI, I make sure that walang kahit anong patient data na ilalog dun sa Gen AI. Um, yeah, mostly on that. Kasi I'm not sure how data is being handled by these tools. And I think there are also like reports on that as well. Um, then another thing that I've read up or I was able to read on was yung environmental risks naman. Because yeah, there are like to maintain a server or a data center, it uses a lot of environmental wastes. Yeah. So like water, power, electricity, so many so many things that the data center will need to be maintained, to be built, maintained, and also to um, be able to mitigate those factors on the data center side naman. But mostly yun lang naman yung parang risk that I can think of um, as of the moment, yeah.
So earlier you mentioned how there's this possibility that OTs may rely on AI, just especially
Mm-mm.
generative AI tools, no, to I guess not only use it as a support tool, but also um, not in I guess in a way replace clinical reasoning. So for you, how do you perceive the collaboration between generative AI and OT clinicians? And would you also say that it's easy or difficult to use AI in the clinical practice?
Mm, in terms of in terms of the clinician side and then the gen AI, and then I'm speaking as like with my own experience on how I use it and when I use it. Because even when I use it, I still use clinical reasoning for it. Like if I'm gonna use this tool, in what way is this going to benefit my clinical judgment or clinical practice? So it's mostly on that. Kaya if I don't see the benefit of using it, I don't use it. Kasi there's no reason for it. Parang gano'n. So, iniisip ko na, um, as a clinician, yun yung parang ano, decision-making tree of whether I'm using it or not. So, may clinical reasoning pa din that comes with it. Now, ang nagiging challenge nga is, if the Gen AI is replacing clinical reasoning. So, kumbaga, for example, it's not my own personal experience, pero it's in my experience as a clinical supervisor, not as a clinician. So, um, merong intern na gumamit ng AI to analyze a test result. Okay? So, ikaw as a clinician, or in hindsight, siguro, that is something that can be done. Pwede naman siya. There's nothing wrong with it on paper. Kasi there are like computer-based na tests that can generate results to you, like computerized results to you right away. Okay, so for example, you do an online test and then pagkakaroon na ng interpretation yon. So may mga ganong tests kasi. Ngayon, ang problem is, kung ano yung interpretation ng test, so let's just say dun sa intern nga na yon, kung ano yung naging interpretation nung Gen AI, yun din, kinopy-paste niya lang. And I know that it was Gen AI kasi when I talked to this intern, hindi naman ganon yung way of processing niya or way of understanding of the client. Hindi ganon kalalim. Kasi Gen AI is gonna give you answers, right? And it's gonna analyze data for you. So, ang nangyayari is, the clinician or yung intern na yon didn't even try to analyze what the Gen AI gave, which I suppose dapat talaga, before you even like put it on the report, no? So, yun yung parang I guess that's like a way to like uh use it or try to integrate it in the practice, or at least that's how I would do it. If not for the data privacy nga. Yun lang talaga. Like, I have no idea how the data is gonna be stored, how it is ensured na yung privacy ng data is being ensured. Kaya hindi ko siya ginagamit to analyze test scores or test results. Um, and what was the second question again? So more on collaboration ng clinician and then the tool, right? And then what's the second on the follow up?
Do you think that it's easy or difficult to use AI tools in the practice?
Mm, like in terms of using it, it's easy to use it kasi very intuitive naman siya. It's not like overly complicated to use. But it's challenging to use in a way that you need, as I said, you need to use clinical reasoning to be able to utilize Gen AI to its like full potential, let's just say. No, so as I said, like for let's just go back to the example dun sa eval. So you can use, let's say, Gen AI to like put in all the scores and then have Gen AI analyze the scores for you, no? And then ikaw as a clinician, you try to integrate the test results, ano yung interpretation nun, nung computerized interpretation, and then um try to uh, get data also from other sources during the evaluation. So, for example, of observations, interview, reports of the caregiver, etc. So, these sources of data can be used to have a good analysis or a better picture of the test result of the client. Yeah. So, mostly on that. So, that will still require clinical reasoning. No. So, um, I guess I'm able to say this as someone who is I have like medyo matagal na ako in practice. So I've developed that clinical reasoning na I know how I can analyze like test results, but it might be difficult for someone who is relatively new kasi they're still learning how they can use and analyze these data or for these data. Okay.
So, do you think, pa, that since you still need to use your clinical reasoning in junction with the results of the generative AI, um, for you, based on your experiences, has generative AI been accurate in terms of when you use it?
Okay. Yung accuracy niya. Hmm, in terms of accuracy, I guess it depends on the prompts. So, kasi 'di ba it depends on the prompts naman talaga. So, for example, if you give like a more specific prompt to the Gen AI, it's gonna give you a closer result. But even then, I would still have to like cross check. So, I still try to like um double check yung mga sources that the AI used. So, paano ba yung experience? For example, kasi as I said, Google has been like investing so much money on AI. So, naka-integrate na siya sa Google nila, like yung search engine. So, um, doon, like when you search something up, yung results na mauuna is like an AI generated result, right? So, what I do is I cross-check yung mga sources that na pinagkuhaan ng AI. It's still the same with the other Gen AI that I use. Bukod dun sa reading what it it has been the results that it gave, I still try to double check the sources that it used. So most of the time, I ask Gen AI to reference a journal or a study para mas madali for me um to check or uh to check if um okay yung binigay sa akin result ng Gen AI. That also helps me with knowing resources din kasi. So, Pagka nakita ko yon, kiniklik ko yung study and then binabasa ko yung study to help me get a big better picture of what I asked the Gen AI to help me look for. Yon.
So, with everything po that you mentioned in terms of the risks and challenges, in terms of its accuracy and with clinical reasoning, so I guess how do you think some of these issues could be addressed?
Hmm, I think being able to like um introduce the tool, and I wouldn't say like a seminar or like a workshop, pero siguro even when it's intuitive, it needs, or like a lot of clinicians need to be informed on how it can be used, no? And then, just let the clinicians decide if they're gonna use it or not. But at least, it was, they're informed before like outwardly refusing na, oh, I'm not gonna use that just out of, I don't know, resistance to innovation or something like that. At least, if they're gonna refuse to not use Gen AI, at least they're informed why they're not gonna use it. Because right now, a lot of the reservations have been about, things that we may not know about Gen AI. Yun.
So, for you personally, would you like to be informed about generative AI based applications further, and would you continue using it in your practice?
I feel like I would, mostly because it's like, it helps me, be more efficient with my work. In terms of sa clinical practice, I would be interested in how it is being used. Right now, I guess like in terms of my own, I want to say values in terms of work. I would still, I like being efficient and at the same time, I'd like to be able to like to improve more on my practice personally. And I feel like, I can use Gen AI for that. But not, as I said, as a supplement to the practice. Yeah. So if I can like find ways on how I can integrate it in a way that benefits the client without, or mitigating the risk, then I would do so. I'm quite open with that. Naman with using tech in the practice.
Perspective on generative AI's potential impact in the OT practice. So, more of how do you feel about the future of generative AI in OT?
In OT, so future. Hmm. We're talking about here, no? Like Philippines muna, local
Yes,
muna.
yes.
Hmm. I don't know. Trying to imagine a future with the, ano, and the practice. Kasi medyo matagal lang ano eh. Ang tagal ng innovation sa practice natin. Like it's matagal siya. Matagal before, clinicians would pick up new things. um, or new practices. So I don't know. Kasi it seems so far away, to be honest. Like yung AI, and I'm glad that you're studying it right now, pero it's gonna take so long for it to be seen in practice talaga. Yeah, kasi ang tagal makakuha ng ano, matagal mag-adapt yung mga clinicians sa ng new practices here. And not a lot will be like puts in the effort to be updated with current studies, with current practices. So, kaya ang tagal. Ang tagal ng adoption ng bagong practices. And this is not just with AI, like even with new practices, new management, new techniques, medyo matagal siya. Yun.
So,
So, not unless a lot more people use it talaga. Pero as I said, matagal yan. And hindi ko siya ma-imagine, to be honest. Kasi it's so far away. Yon.
So you'd say that the future of AI in OT, it would really the big factor would really be the usage of the clinicians and their
Yeah.
intention to use it.
Mm-mm. Mostly, yeah. Um, yeah, mostly on the I wouldn't say awareness kasi aware naman yung clinicians of these tools, but it's mostly about knowing or understanding how it can be used in the practice. Um, but even then, as I said, medyo ano pa, may resistance in
So
adopting. Sorry.
yes, go ahead, lang po.
Yeah, may onting resistance pa when it comes to adopting these new tech or these innovations.
So do you have any suggestions for, I guess, preparing current OTs and upcoming OTs for the potential generative AI adoption?
Siguro mas maganda with newer OTs kasi they tend to be more open. Like in general, they tend to have to um be more open to innovation compared to like the older ones. Let's be honest here. Yan. So, medyo may resistance. Not unless, yun nga, parang ano talaga sila. They try to keep up with new studies, new practices. They keep themselves updated with best practices. But even then, that takes a lot of effort on the clinician's part to actually be updated with new management, new techniques, practice, etc. in the in OT. So, ayun, parang with the younger ones, maybe they can um ano ba? They can be taught or like modeled how Gen AI can be used in a way that can um like as a tool to supplement the practice. So as I said, parang it's to help them out with the um aspects of the practice that may take up some time for them. So ano ba yun? Hindi planning. For some, it's analyzing tests. That's why they use AI. So kumbaga parang I'm not trying to vilify use of AI that it shouldn't be used at all kasi I still see the benefits of it. I understood why the intern used the AI to interpret tests. Kaso lang talaga, given the skills of that, I would not recommend them using it in that way. So, it can be, so as I said, okay lang naman, sige, you can use AI, basta you know why you're using it. And that when I ask them about, let's say, their clients, you'll be able to like say or analyze the profile of the client or maintindihan nila yung needs ng client even without the AI, or at least if they use the AI to help them out, to help them understand the client, then um masasabi nila yun, mako-communicate nila yun. So ayun, in terms of like sa practice, kasi most of my students actually use AI, and I have to like teach them also about how or when not to use it and when they can use it. So it's mostly on that also, dun siya nagkakaroon or lumalabas in my practice. It's cause my students use it. So I have to like teach them when not to use it, how to use it, um, and yun. Yeah, mostly on that.
So you think that there should be like an established parang guidelines in a way on when to use it and not to use it too bad.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Okay. And then how about for the broader aspect, how do you see the future of healthcare naman po evolving with the increasing presence of generative AI?
Oh, in terms of healthcare systems, uh, it's more, ano siya, it's it, mm, how do I say this? Siguro it helps with, kasi iniisip ko yung ano, I'm thinking about like the general like healthcare. What I can think about in terms of like sa Gen AI, well, as long as you cross check it gives you like the updated um practices. No. So um so for example sa medicine, ayan. Nag-e-evolve yung study ng medicine, right? So laging na-update, there's a lot of innovations. So um the Gen AI actually helps the clinician to be a lot more informed in terms of what's new. Or I guess I'm just saying that because I've seen, my friends who are doctors use it in that way. Ayan. But in terms of how it can be used, or yung potential ng Gen AI and more healthcare services, I'm trying to imagine it, no, na more automated yung healthcare systems. But um, I feel like I need to read more on it, like how it is being used in healthcare in general.
All right. So I guess as a last question, um, if ever that since AI is still a growing practice and there's still many innovations that are coming with it, I guess first would be, is there any particular specific AI tool that you want to be developed for OT? And if AI were to really be truly integrated into the practice, what do you think is the first step that the higher ups in the OT practice, such as PAOT and WOFAT, should take?
Mm, I'm not quite well versed with Gen AI. Like, or I know that there are other tools, but I feel like they're mostly used for research. That one I know, pero not a lot of clinicians do research. Like, yung mga nagre-research lang are the researchers. So, they can use, parang mas madali for them to adopt use of AI, with research and being able to use it in, ethically, no? But in terms of like yung practice talaga, I don't know how to do that. I mean, I'm just thinking about it. Trying to think about how it can be implemented in the practice. Apart from, the uh just with the analyzing tests, I guess that can be it. But even then, you would still need clinical reasoning to like be able to ensure that your treatment management, evaluation, etc., is still client centered. Um, so I guess more on that, like how to use it as a supplement. In terms of sa paot, oh, I don't know. Paot is a bit, ano, medyo old school yung mga paot eh. Mga nasa paot ngayon. But I don't know, there's new board. Maybe there's going to be new ideas there. Um, kasi, I don't know, I don't know, they're kind of old-fashioned pa in terms of the practice. So, I don't know, maybe, during conferences, maybe, it can be discussed. Kasi those are the platforms that OT has in terms of discussion. Um, right now, wala pa masyadong like ganong level of discussion in terms of use of AI. So I feel like if if there are going to be researches that has been published with the use of AI, the like yung mga conferences, let's say sa PAOT, can be used as a way to um to discuss that. Kasi I feel like that's where we need to start first to have that kind of discussion muna. Kasi uh, I can imagine the the reactions ng mga audience, lalo na yung mga old ones. Because as I said, medyo may resistance or mabagal yung adoption in terms of new practices. How about, yeah. So I would consider this as that.
Okay, so just a follow up. What do you think that, I guess, age or other factors like field of practice affect their openness to AI?
I guess that's a different topic altogether kasi openness like in general is I would say ano kasi siya personality trait kasi siya. Um so it's part of like just to sidetrack anyway. Yung openness to experience is part of a big five personality trait. So the openness part, this is just like a general or like an overgeneralization of an observation. So openness to experiences can be a trait. So the person will have they're more open to um to experience new things, more open for new ideas. Um in terms of like observations, so age, it comes with age sometimes. But not necessarily kasi may mga certain um in terms of age, like young people can be neurotic as well. So that's also part of the personality trait. So the neuroticism actually kind of limits the openness. So if you're more neurotic, you're less likely to be open to these new experiences. And may mga new younger people who are like that. Like they're not open to innovation. So um pero right now kasi yun yung na-observe ko. As I said, an overgeneralization of an observation na yung mga younger clinicians tend to be more open to using AI kasi they're exposed to that. Nakalakihan na nila, na-expose na sila to that. But the older generations are not. So they tend to not know what it is, how it is being used, para saan ba yun. So, ang tendency is to not adopt it. Or, yun nga, medyo may reservations to using it. Kasi nga, it's fairly new. It's very new to to these clinicians. And as I said, another factor kasi na napapansin ko talaga is yung willingness to be updated to the practice. So, if the clinician tries to read more or parang nasanayan siya na magbasa ng journals tapos they keep themselves updated, they tend to be more open to adopting these ideas kasi napapractice nila yon or na-apply nila in their practice. But if you're not reading journals, and you're not like trying to do the trying to adopt an evidence-based practice, then that's gonna be hard. Mas magkakaroon ka talaga ng resistance when we do have these innovations kasi nga hindi ka naman updated, no? So yun yung parang thoughts ko about it.
So, for you po, would you say that you're willing to learn naman po about
Yeah.
AI?
Mm-mm. Yeah, kasi like it helps with parang I wouldn't say improving practice, pero developing current practice. Because we can't be like behind. We have to keep ourselves updated in terms of what's the best practice. And if AI is part of that, then I am willing to adopt it. Kasi that's the current best practice.
All right. So, I think that is it for our interview po. So, we thank you for giving us your insights and for your participation today. So, through this bias, we'll be sending the transcription of your interview soon so that you can see um, if your answers are consistent with what we noted down. So, do you have any questions, po?
Na naman,
All
hopefully it
right.
breaks up. Or you can like present it in PAOT. I'm like curious what they would say.
Thank you po. We'll update you as well on the results of our study. So if you don't have any questions, then again, we thank you for being very insightful today and for making the time. And you may now leave the meeting.
Okay,
Thank
thank you so
you.
much. Good luck in
Thank
your
you.
research.
Thank you po.